The next presentation, Vdovichenko. Is Mr. Vdovichenko here? He is from the Association of Drillers of Ukraine. Unfortunately, those who should be hearing this presentation are not here. There's no one to complain to. There are no representatives of the ministry, of the Verkhovna Rada, so we'll just complain to each other. First, briefly, the review of the experience of management of the geological sector in the developed countries. That's not obligatory European experience. Japan is also a developed country. We look at European best practices, but we also have very good practices which are better than European and even better than the global. Like, let's take Japan. State Geological Survey of Japan. They have laboratories in several cities of Ukraine. Geological Institute is part of the Department of Science and Industry, and that is financed more than the Institute of Environmental Protection. And we subordinated the Geological Survey to the Ministry of Environmental Protection. Also, we have departments different. The functions of the Geological Institute. The Geological Institute does geological acquisition and prospecting for minerals. Exploration is done by state-owned companies. The countries are market-type economy countries, but the state companies are doing that. Some works are executed by private companies, but are financed by the state. We usually differentiate between private and state-owned. The form of ownership should be taken into account. What should be of importance? The scientific standards, the managerial standards, and so on. That's the annual volume of drilling in Japan. Some people say that Japan is not developed in the respect of minerals, but the volume of drilling in Japan is 3 million meters. And we have 250,000 meters. We used to drill 10 million. And how it's divided into water, into marine and ground minerals. The Geological Survey of Poland. There's a Polish Geological Institute in Warsaw and other regional institutes which represent the Geology Survey. The functions of Geological Institute in Poland. The institute has the Geological Archives, museum, laboratories which are subordinate to them. All the geological data should be sent to Geoinform in our country, for example. That's what else they're doing in Poland. The next one, British Geological Survey. It's also a big geological center with the branches in England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. They provide certain services for which they receive some payment without any problem. In Northern Ireland, there are different forms. In Northern Ireland, this survey is part of the local department. Italy. In Italy, it's not developed there more about environmental protection, and geological survey is mostly working on environmental issues. Conclusions from foreign best practices, we need to mention the geological surveys of these states help sustainable development of some regions and the country in total. This activity is helping development of entrepreneurship locally. The proposals for discussion, all functions of the state administration of geological sector and scientific support are suggested to be centralized in Ukr-degree, which will be strengthened by personnel and material technical potential from liquidated structures. And the central body of the central executive body, Ukr-degree, departments, laboratories, services.
Then revival of local state inform departments in Lviv, Chernihiv, Poltava, Dnipro, which were cancelled in result of excessive centralization. Gashovsky is now director, which suppressed the sector, and now he left for this further endeavors. Today we have a sufficient number of regional geological enterprises at the regional level, which strive to survive and which could be united at the level of geological exploration enterprises provided with funding, and they should carry out all the functions of subsoil use management at regional level, including issuance of licenses at the regional level. Of course, that should be well defined, well determined, and to separate from the local authorities, because all those geological regional organizations possess all the archives, all the geological data. Of course, the central Ukrainian state GeoInform service, they could interfere only in case of any conflict. So the question is why this excessive centralization is applied while there are a lot of people at the regional level. And also it is useful to cancel excessive intermediary administrative bodies in Nakhnadra, Ukrainian Geological Company, South Ukr Geology, Kirov Geology, Zahid Geology. These are the bureaucrats which eliminate all the enterprises at the regional level in order to exist themselves. I can provide a lot of examples that they are not needed. Well, I would like Mr. Kyrylyuk to be present here, and I would like to ask him a question. How do we are trying to reform the Ukrainian Geological Survey now? The slides shows the sources of funding. The main source of funding should be provided from the state. And by the way, it is absolutely sufficient source of funding. 40.9 billion hryvnia of fees for subsoil use, that is to be collected from royalties from minerals production, and 10% of that income, like 4 billion hryvnia, would be sufficient to fully supply and support functioning of the geological sector at a full scope. Why geology is underfunded, whether it is not needed, or maybe there is something more important. Let's save some money on education and science. Let's say save money on healthcare, let's save money on something, on culture, and invest into geology because it will develop. Let us support Kiev College, Poltava College, Ivano-Frankivsk College. So let us train those specialists which are needed in the economy, but which are prepared in those colleges just to earn money for the college. Some 100 million hryvnia, which were allocated for the geology during this year, this amount only to 0.25% of the money earned by geology sector. Then salaries and wages of the leadership takes 130 million for these are wages from the supervisory board. That's less than for the maybe IMF is leading this process. Unfortunately, it remained unclear for the interpreters what he wanted to say. Now let us speak on the public council and on the memorandum. Of course, we should make pressure on the authorities. We have a trade union Now about operation of the Association of the Drilling Experts of Ukraine. We applied to different bodies about bringing to criminal responsibility of people who are responsible for illegal production of amber, like Minister Semerak. He does not control the State Geological Survey and continues to non-control. Igor Sobolev never responded to us. We applied to Yuri Lutsenko, Prosecutor General, about Semerak and Boyarkin, about abuse of power by those bureaucrats. This was published in the mass media. Now, disclosures made in the mass media. Mr. Rosenblatt provided some articles about amber, then we wrote an article, our welcome into Rosenblatt, and hello to Rosenblatt. Who covers the criminal activity of the State Geology Survey. This was published in Zerkalo Nedeli weekly newspaper, where we blamed Prime Minister Groisman, who recognized that he systemically abuses his power and neglects fulfillment of his direct responsibilities. The law on amber. Criminals will pay taxes from the assets that they have stolen, where we express our negative opinion. There is almost a year now when we published the first article about amber, but till now we have not received any answer.
Once there's no reply means consent. Now on memorandum. First, this is good memorandum. Our association supports it, and but we need to work on the text, on the title, and so on. The microphone is not used. Scientific approaches, terminology should be clarified. Here we have all the doctors of sciences or professors, but the terminology is not defined. They invented alternative source of energy. What's alternative? That's one of the directions which excludes another one. There could be alternative type of energy, turf is alternative, or coal. Yes, for some territory, turf could be alternative to gas, but no, gas will be alternative to turf, because in the past they were using turf and then they supplied gas to that, and the alternative to turf was gas, and we do not call it alternative source. Wind is the traditional type of energy, but now they call it non-traditional gas, shale gas. How can we call it non-traditional technological platform? I have doubts. Sorry. I suggest to call it georesource briefly. Okay. Everything else is needed, but not only within, not only as European value, but world value.